it seems that the people on the left of politics have kind of given up on the "you're a racist, you're a bigot" type criticism, and they're just now turning to the word fascism. And this is hilarious to me, and I think this clip here from LBC sums everything up just about perfectly.
Being against immigration illegal immigration doesn't make you a fascist.
Yeah.
But what does make you a fascist adjacent is the conclusions you draw from that illegal immigration and the means in which you're prepared to go to achieve those aims. So if you look at ICE right now in the States, there are lots of your callers, lots of listeners to LBC. I hear it all the time. Mm-hmm. That guy previously to me would be salivating at the idea of ICE in the UK, running around the streets, capturing people off the streets with no real jurisdiction, no real support from the rule of law. They would be absolutely salivating at that.
But Alex, why is it fascism to deport people who have arrived into the country illegally?
So there's a tick list of fascism, okay? And I'm not saying it's fascism to deport illegal immigrants. I'm saying it's fascism to when your governing party ticks every one of those checkboxes on the checklist of fascism.
Right, which I went through.
I can apply, well, there's a couple of them, but I can apply them to Donald Trump directly. I personally have done that and can do that. And many, many scholars of fascism have done the same. Reputable scholars. Look at Timothy Snyder, Yale professor. Next, we're going to be saying Yale's DEI and woke. Well, he's a white man. Okay, so let's not pretend and be silly out here. There are credible scholars who know what's going on in the USA is fascism right now. And there are people like your previous caller who are absolutely salivating at the thought of that happening in the UK. And I'm going to tell him right now, people like me, are ready for people like him.
What does that mean?
And I'm ready for a Nigel Farage government in this country, because if they start trying to implement those types of policies, there's going to be a massive backlash on the scale you will have not seen before in this country. I tell you something now, when you think about the riots in this country, which have really caused damage, and the riots in this country, you're going to see something you have never seen before.
Well, I'm trying to avoid getting to that place, but Alex, I don't think, with the greatest respect, that it really helps to use the term fascist so liberally. I don't think there's anything fascist about the American government forcibly removing illegal people who have entered its country illegally.
No, neither do I. No, Ali, please understand me. Neither do I. But running on the streets without jurisdiction, grabbing anyone and everyone who looks brown. Listen to your esteemed colleague, Simon Marks. ICE are doing that. Listen to your esteemed colleague, Simon Marks, who reports on this daily. Okay, and if you're pretending like you can't see and hear him and what he's saying, if you're pretending that, then shame on you. Okay, because I'll tell you something now, Ali. If ICE come on the streets and they see you, you're going to get wrapped up as well, because they don't give a stuff.
I'm focusing about the UK. What about the UK?
I'm talking about that. I'm telling you that people here want ICE in the UK. You've already heard two party leaders talk about it. Okay, you heard Kemi Badenoch talk about it.
I want ICE in the UK.
Oh, so you want people being wrapped up on just because of the skin colour?
No, I want people.
That's what's happening in the US.
No. I want people to be forcibly removed from this country who should not be here.
Yeah, I agree, Ali. Listen, let's not play silly beggars here. Okay, I agree that people who are not here legally should not be here. But do I want masked, armed agents running up on them?
I understand that point, Alex. I understand that point, but Alex, you have to also accept that me saying that I do not want people coming here illegally on small boats, firstly, some people will jump down my throat saying it's not illegal, they can come under the UN conventions and all the rest of it, number one. Number two, they'll call me a fascist and a racist for just saying what I just said, which doesn't help, does it?
Ali, please listen.
No, but come on, it's true, right, Alex? Come on, let's be fair.
Listen, I agree with you that there are some people who conduct their affairs in that way.
Yes.
Okay, but they are not the people that we should be basing our entire political ideology upon.
Well, there's quite a lot of the left, frankly. I mean, it's quite a lot of the Guardian Easter reading class that would condemn me week on, week in, week out about it.
But now you're generalising.
No, I'm not. I'm not generalising. Alex, I speak to people every week, right? And I look at all the comments I get, and you look at the comments, and they come out with this guff. And what I'm saying is, let's not take our eyes off the ball of the likes of White Vanguard and their ilk, who are genuinely dangerous people.
Right. Who do you think who do you think White Vanguard would vote for at the next general election?
No
Who
idea.
do you think most aligns with their views?
No idea.
I know.
You're not going to tell me about. You're not going to tell me reform's fascist, are you? Because that is not going to help anyone here.
Now you're putting words in my mouth.
No, but come on, Alex. What are you getting at? Come on, tell me.
I just want you to answer the question.
Go on.
If you had to guess, which party do you think they would vote for at the
I have no idea. They might not vote at all.
Which party has talked about remigration? Which two parties?
Alex,
remigration?
You know what? On this basis, if you're going to come out with this nonsense, right, my fear is we are going to head to civil war. Do you know that? Really? If you're going to come out with this nonsense, right? I mean, reform, right? I've known Nigel Farage for years. I disagree with him on many things. Is he a fascist? No, he's not.
And these are the types of people that you're dealing with in society generally, who hold these quite extreme views. That gentleman there, his views are very, very extreme. And on the screen here, you can see the definition of fascism. And reform simply doesn't fit that. Quite simply because there are black people in Reform's party. We're not going to have a single party state. Nigel Farage isn't a dictator. He would be voted in, and that's not dictatorial to my mind. As a voter myself, I've had to endure 14 years of the Tories, and right now I'm having to go through a Labour Party that to my mind is busy wrecking the country and allowing all sorts of people into the country as well. So on the economy and on the culture, I've been failed for coming up to 2 decades by the next election. And so if I wanted to vote in a political party who's going to carry out the things that I want to see done in the country, that's just about as far from fascism as you can get. And I think most of the normal public thinks this. But the problem is that when you've got leaders of political parties like Zach Polanski, for instance, calling Nigel Farage a fascist and saying he's far right all of the time, then this starts to develop traction. And where does this end up? Well, it ends up with Reform being voted in on potentially a landslide or coalition at the next election, and violence on the streets for a time. And it's quite funny that, a lot of the people on the right have been gearing themselves up for civil war. But actually, when it comes, we know it's not going to come from the right. You just have to look at general social media posts and YouTube to see that. When you're watching YouTube, it's always the right people that are trying to enter into a dialogue, and it's always the left-wing people that are screaming in their faces. And this is how it's been for quite a while now, and that's how it's going to be going forward, because I believe the facts are on the side of the right. But then again, I'm a creature of the right wing, so I would say that. But it's not going to be Conservatives and Reform voters hitting the streets, rioting in the streets. Upon thinking about it, it's obviously going to be somebody from the left who don't like the fact that the people have decided to vote in who they want to see. And obviously people are going to be really angry because everything's being geared up right now. We've got the Labour Party calling Reform racist. We've got the Green Party and the Lib Dems using the word fascism quite a lot. And so I feel when we're looking at fascism that I can just debunk that, and I feel like I have debunked that there, and I think you would have to go along with me on that score, that quite simply Nigel Farage and Reform cannot be categorised as fascists. And just to pick up on the end point there, which I did find was quite funny, all of the time the left is trying to create this ultra-nationalist far-right orthodoxy within the UK. Like there's loads of racists just under the surface here, and really you've got the people protesting, the pink ladies who stand outside the migrant hotels, but just underneath, the dark underbelly lurks the millions of racists in the UK that are just waiting to come out under this fascist regime that Reform are going to bring about. But the organisation that was mentioned was an organisation called White Vanguard. Now, when I started doing my YouTube channel, like all things in life, it is a journey. And so I'm not, the world's leading expert on politics. I just call politics how I see them. I'm a normal guy, and I like to think I present normal views. And I done a video quite a while ago, and in the comments, a gentleman had put on there, "I'm voting for Homeland." And I was like, Homeland? Who are they? So I went on and I done a bit of research, and then I kind of started digging into Homeland. And it turns out that Homeland are, to all intents and purposes, what I would term ethno-nationalists. And that's certainly not how I view the world. I'm not, a racist. And I don't want to eject all black people from the country, anything like that. I don't want illegal migrants to be here. I want a fair, legal immigration policy where the people we bring into the country are going to be good for the country. But I'm not a racist, and I believe a lot of the people in Homeland and White Vanguard are. But regardless of that, they are under the definition of ethno-nationalists. You could call them white supremacists, you could call them whatever you wish to. But I actually had a look at a White Vanguard after I listened to that clip, because this is I'm going through an education all of my own on this, and I looked at this is what Hope Not Hate found. And Hope Not Hate is an organisation, you might be familiar with them. They are desperate to create this ultra-nationalist country. They are desperate to try and describe this. And you'll see here the Midlands chapter and all this. And they've got a few photographs on there. And, they've got photographs of, a kind of a Zippo lighter with Nazi symbology on it. And I'm not going to put the picture on there. You can actually go and have a look through yourself, and the article is relatively interesting if this type of thing does interest you. But they are kind of grasping at straws. These are a few people, a very, very small fringe party. And if anything, who would White Vanguard be voting for? Well, if they're going to vote for anybody, it's going to be for somebody who is beside their own political ends, who are espousing what they want. And here is the official wiki page on Homeland, and you'll see that they have 1,300 members. So whilst that isn't a small amount of people, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who don't want to be officially aligned with that type of thing, and they want to keep their names out of it. I'm sure those people exist. What we're talking about is quite a small amount of people. And so this trope that's being put forward by the left here, that, there's White Vanguard, all over the country, and they're salivating at the thought of ICE grabbing people off the streets and all of that. I'm just going to debunk all of that. There is obviously a small amount of white nationalists, ethno-nationalists in this country, but they are certainly in the low single digits of the population, I would say. There are a huge number of people in this country who are sick to death of illegal migration and migration being out of control, and who believe, like me, that 6.5 million people over the last decade is far too much for us to be welcoming in, and we want some balance and some reason restored to the system. But what we are seeing now is the germination and the seeds of the violence that we are going to see in 2029 at the next election. Because this is how it's going to work. They're going to continue to call Nigel Farage racist, but that appears to be just kind of water off a duck's back now. And even people on the right, we just ignore that now. But more and more, they're going to turn to this term fascism, because it's a new term and it's easy for people to grasp that term. And for that reason, I think we're going to see more of this talk. And Zach Polanski, when this violence comes, some of this violence is going to be on him, because he is talking about right-wing fascism, and if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I'm going to call it a duck and all of that. And so that's on them, and the more the Greens ramp this up, all that's going to happen in the next election when Reform get voted in, there's going to be rioting. But it's not going to be the right-wing people that's going to be dealing with the violence. It's going to be the police and the army that's going to have to be called in to deal with this. So these people here, they're going to be fighting with their own country. It's not going to be right-wing people, because we won't need to do anything. We'll already have what we want when Reform get voted in. But talk like this, I mean, what an absolute moron. And, it's difficult to put into context how stupid that whole section was, but, this is where we're at. Thanks for your time today.